So, National Families Day was the day to recognize and remember individuals like Lincoln Riley on her second anniversary from actually being murdered by an illegal immigrant. So, that happened February 22nd, 2026. And the day after, Homeland Security has released documentation showing how the governor, and we're sticking with California at the moment, how Governor Newsom has pardoned individuals from being able to be face removal out of the country. This document was as you see, this document is the day after the first National Families Day. This is February 23rd, 2026, and it specifically regards California and Governor Newsom's pardons, right, with regards to crimes, and these crimes go from murder to assault, and it's so much more, so much more. And this, like I said, they just released this document. They just released this document, and of these people that have been released. So this is primarily under the Trump administration. So under President Trump and Secretary Noem, Immigration and Custom Enforcement is fighting for the arrest and removal of aliens who committed crimes in American communities. As of February 6, 2026, ICE has 33,174 active detainers alien criminal illegal alien in California local, state, and federal prisons across the state of California. 4,561 criminal illegal aliens have had detainers not honored and have been released from jail into California communities since January 20th, 2025. So let's look at a couple of these crimes that have been committed. Because, first of all, you got to think about how the average American citizen has to actually go through this whole pardon process, and how there is no respect for the citizen of this nation when it comes to the Democratic Party, with the whole idea and perspective of sanctuary states, sanctuary cities. When you have introduced a law like the Truth Act, which stop these individuals who do not have the respect for the nation to actually stay lawful, I don't want to say lawful citizens, but to stay lawful under the social construct we have in this country, the same respect that they should have for their own country. They've allowed these individuals to come out here into the United States, commit crimes against American citizens, and then get back released into these communities. This is what the California Truth Act is all about, which is a part of the sanctuary state policies in California. So to get around this, after the judge has already issued these individuals some form of removal, here is Gavin Newsom saying, "The hell with it. We're going to keep these individuals here." And look at some of the crimes that has been issued that some of these individuals who have committed. I say this because when you have people like Lincoln Riley, when you have these individuals in your communities that you just don't know about, that are here illegally, and the only way that you're going to catch these individuals sometimes is if they commit a crime. Some of these crimes consisted of 31 homicides, 661 assaults, 574 burglaries, 184 robberies, 1,489 drug offenses, 379 weapons offenses, and 234 sexual predatory offenses. They are calling Gavin Newsom to pretty much call an end to this madness, because one thing that you got to recognize about how the pardon system is supposed to work in California, right? And this is for individuals that that are citizens and have to abide by the social contract, violated that social contract, went to prison, and who has had to show some form that they can have assimilated back into the community, the state, the country in which they are citizens to, in which they actually call their home. These individuals, these are not these individuals' homes. These individuals can, have the opportunity to go back to the country in which they come from. But with the disrespect that comes with regards to this whole issue, excuse me, I got to go to you and be able to just put you in knowledge of how the pardon system is actually supposed to work, because there's two ways that an individual gets pardoned. And one of the ways that individuals gets pardoned is uh, to restore certain rights, right? And so the way that Governor Newsom is using the pardon system to restore these individuals' rights when a judge has already issued them removal from the country is by giving them these pardons. Now, the other way that a person receives a pardon is through rehabilitation. And first, they have to be issued, right, a certificate of rehabilitation from a Superior Court judge. And then that application automatically goes to the governor. But it also goes to the Board of Parole hearings, right? Uh, it faces a review. But here is the daring thing about this whole thing with regards to this. All right. So think about if you had been convicted of a crime, or the average American citizens who have been convicted of a crime, they've been in prison, they serve their time in prison, then they have to go into either a form of parole or probation, right? And then 10 years plus after that time, could they actually be issued a pardon, right? So there's two, and it's generally to have the ability to have some of your rights restored within this country. You might not get all your rights back because the conviction is still going to be a part of your record, but that's 10 years plus. So let's go to a couple of these individuals who have recently been released, who has got a removal orders from a judge, and because the governor has issued them these pardons, they the Department of Homeland Security has had to go find these individuals primarily, or was able to redetain these individuals to take them back into some of the court proceedings for a issuance of removal to actually happen. And these are the individuals that the Democrats, let's think about this for a minute. This is how you know that the Democratic Party is losing, because I want you to think about this, and I want you to think about this clearly. Like, the Democratic Party has always primarily been a rich person's party, right? When you think about slave times, now everybody in slavery didn't own slaves. I mean, everybody in the South didn't own slaves, right? So it was the individuals who actually owned slaves, who had the land, who was creating the wealth off slavery, that actually had this culture going on in the South. That culture that was being driven was by those landowners, those riches, those populists. And so Trump policies are so good right now that the Democratic Party is losing their hands in these rich folks' pockets. And the only thing that they can do is fight for this whole sanctuary city and sanctuary state stuff, because what this sanctuary city and sanctuary state does, the sanctuary policies does completely, is it gives these populists the means to have a permanent workforce in this country. So when you look back at why would you want to keep an individual who here in this country who has been duly convicted of a crime and doesn't have the respect when it comes to being lawful, wants to commit crimes like that you see here. Let's go to this gentleman. This individual who is a part of this notorious power gang from Armenia. This is the individual convicted of voluntary manslaughter, assault with a deadly weapon, tampering with vehicles, receiving stolen property, and grand theft. Let's go to another individual. This individual from El Salvador, arrested for attempted murder, inflicting corporal injuries on a spouse, assault by means of force likely to cause great bodily injury, false imprisonment, and threats to commit a crime resulting in death or great bodily injury. Now let's go to a female. Two females, as a matter of fact. This individual up here at top, let's go to her. Arrested for willful cruelty to a child and assault with a deadly weapon using force, causing great bodily injury. Aggravated assault with a deadly weapon and battery on an ex-spouse. This individual was convicted of first-degree murder, driving under the influence, and second-degree robbery. This individual, this individual has a history of a criminal conviction spanning for the past 28 years, including hit and run property damage, willful cruelty to a child, possession of controlled substance, evasion of peace officer, obstruction of. But what's being left out of this is the whole idea with regards to rehabilitation, right? Because the gubernatorial pardon is a public document that is legally acknowledged that a person has been rehabilitated. So, in that, subsequently, after the parole and after some form of supervision, these people, like I said, some of these people were still on parole at the time, did not fully get off any type of supervision. And here the governor is. This should show how radical he is not even giving these individuals time to be released from certain types of supervision and giving them this gubernatorial pardon because, as you can see here, even though the Immigration and Nationality Act actually gives the governor the ability to do so after these individuals have been faced parole, which means that they have absolutely completed their sentence. Right, you don't actually complete in your conviction or your time served until you actually are removed from parole or supervision. Right, instead of releasing these individuals back into the community, the detainer would, once these individuals get released from the prison, would actually allow the Homeland Security to take these individuals into custody and subject them into immediate removal. The part that's being left out with regards to this, though, is the whole idea that rehabilitation rehabilitation is being left out when it regards to the whole conditions that you issue a gubernatorial pardon, right? Under the whole scheme of how a pardon is actually supposed to be issued. So let's go to see how many years you actually supposed to wait before you get and be eligible for a gubernatorial pardon, right? Because you can submit an application for a gubernatorial pardon, right? One way is that when you get the a certificate of rehabilitation, it automatically goes to the governor, right? The other way, the governor will provide all paperwork and documents relied upon to petition to the Board of Parole hearings. After the Board of Parole hearings uh, complete an investigation, they will provide their written recommendations to the governor. The governor must then seek approval from the California Supreme Court before moving forward with uh, granting the pardon. So 4 judges must concur in order for the governor to grant your pardon. So you mean to tell me that we as citizens got to go through all this while they can skip out everything else that come when it involves the gubernatorial pardon to actually just go into the whole Immigration and Nationality Act and being
So while
able.
thinking of the Immigration and Nationality Act and
Thinking that the government has the opportunity to actually issue out pardon, if you don't look at the whole grand scheme of things of how these pardons are actually supposed to be doled out to individuals, right? For it to become in compliance, right? First and foremost, these individuals, and it says it right here in this document for both the certificate of rehabilitation and gubernatorial pardons, applicants should demonstrate in that the time following their offense, they have lived an honest and upright life, obeyed the law, and exhibited good moral character. This is under the California Penal Code. California Penal Code section of 4852.05. It said right there itself that if you issuing out these gubernatorial pardons without being able to demonstrate that these individuals had these, what's it, three characteristics: honest and upright life, obey the law, and exhibit good moral character. You cannot determine that when a person is just been released from prison and haven't even been subjected to any type of supervision prior, or excuse me, post conviction, or excuse me, post their release from prison. This has had to be demonstrated primarily through probation or parole, in which time they are first of all and first and foremost are able to get a certificate of rehabilitation once they have gotten off this type of supervision. And not only that, to even at that point, once you got the certificate of rehabilitation, 7 years has to lapse. And a lot of times for Californians, it's mostly regards 10 years, but yet and still, the governor, in his radical stance, while he consistently wants to blame Trump for everything and all the problems that consistently going on, and it's the same thing when it comes to Joe Biden, when it regards to the Immigration and Nationality Act being used for immigration parole. All right, how the Fifth District Court of the United States, which is the federal court, absolutely said that the immigration parole, in regards to how Joe Biden and Mayorkas was issuing immigration parole to those individuals from Venezuela, Cuba, Colombia, Armenia, Ukraine, Haiti, violated the act in itself, and it was non-enforcement of the act. So when you think about all the problems that the Democratic Party has started in this nation, when it comes to the immigration parole system, and you want to blame Trump, Trump is not doing anything but abiding by the law. Hence, the Republicans are a law and order party, right? But here we are, we having people go out here and protest for something that the Democratic Party is struck up in the first place. So it's kind of like, how are you going to go out here and tell people to protest with regards to something that you violated in a radical attitude against the laws of the United States of America? And when you go back into the whole idea with regards to who are the Democratic Party, you know, base in the first place. Now, I'm not talking about a voter base. I'm talking about who they have a pocket, who hands they have, who pockets they have their hands in. It's always been towards the rich. So when you go back in the times of slavery, this struck up a whole idea with regards to the Civil War, how everyone in the South wasn't, they might have owned land, but they definitely was not slave owners, right? And the slave owners pretty much drove the culture in with regards to slavery, but these were the most of the wealthy individuals at that time who had driven that culture with regards to slavery for all of the South. Uh, there was a lot of white individuals who
didn't have slaves that was just as hardworking out there in them fields at the same time. So, but it's the culture that allowed them to have that step up over the slave in society, which uh, which drove the culture, right? And it came from the idea of the populace. So when you look at the whole idea right now, what's going on right now, the trouble is that if they lose on this immigration issue, what they're going to have is, which Trump policies is trumping them right now. Trump policies is doing so well that these populists are leaving the Democratic Party. And so they have to go ahead and win on this because they're no longer going to be able to be in these people's pockets. So when you look at the wealth tax right now, the whole reason with regards to the wealth tax right now is because these wealthy individuals are turning their backs on the Democratic Party. And it's only a demonstration of that, of why they fighting so hard to keep illegal immigrants in this nation, is because if they lose on the issue, how are they going to exist as a party when they don't have the money to actually fund the direction in which they want to go, which the direction is actually being guided to them by these wealthier individuals. Tiny Cross-H.U.G on the Trumped Up Live Show. Always remember to like, share, subscribe to the channel, and always remember also, it's a good day to be a soldier.